I'm just trying to get some things together here. Been having some trouble. Huh? Just trying to get some things together here. What?
SCLC.
What did I say?
SCLC. Maybe talking about it.
Okay, let's SCLC. LCLC. That's what I meant. All right. For some reason, I am not able. All right. For some reason, I am not able to put text in my room. No way I can put my text in my room if I click on this emoji. I'm able to click on this emoji. I like to emoji. Let me see something here. Y'all, you okay, son? Okay, let's get it together. Okay. Let's see here. Let's try it this way. All right. They're great. All right. So, aim it down a little bit. Go ahead, turn it a little bit. So, you turn the fan on too.
Please don't try that.
Oh, I thought you was chilly, baby.
No, I'm hot.
Okay, sure. Just keep it off. Just not. Yeah. So keep reading, son. So, talking about Martin Luther King, the SCLC, and we're using Martin Luther King as a case study of sorts. And one of the reasons why I'm using Martin Luther King because his birthday, his posthumous birthday is coming up real soon, and you know how our people get with Martin Luther King and stuff. And so what I want to do is I want to show you some of the flaws, some of the working flaws that are inherent in many of our Black leaders. I think because the Most High told us that he wants us to be separate and a holy people. In turn, we want to be the total opposite of that. The Most High has never been ever convinced us of the necessity of us practicing our culture. We really haven't clinged on to that. We're not ready for our culture. We're really not. We want white supremacy. We want white supremacy. And it's sad. So go ahead, read, son, read.
All right. In September 20th,
A little louder. Lift up your voice a little louder. Go ahead.
On September 20th, 19...
More. I'm looking at look, you be able to tell how loud you're speaking by those green dots that's flashing. You only make one dot go. Okay? Look, go ahead, read and look at it. And maybe I don't. Go ahead. Go ahead.
On September 20th, 1958, while signing copies of his book, Stride Toward Freedom, Blumstein's department store in Harlem, King narrowly escaped death when Isola Curry, a mentally ill black woman who believed he was conspiring against her with communists stabbed her in the chest with a letter opener. Surrey by Aubrey D. Lambert Maynard and Emil Nazario and John W.B. Cordes. King was hospitalized for several weeks, while Curry was found mentally incompetent to stand trial. In 1959, he published a short book called The Measure of a Man, which contained his sermon, What is Man? And the Dimensions of a Complete Life. The sermon argued for man's need for God's love and criticized the racial injustice of Western civilization.
Okay, so, you know, I was reading these articles before, and it was a guy that was a mentor of Martin Luther King. And I can't remember what the guy's name was, but this is a guy that was around when King was, let me see. This guy probably would be mentioned in the Wikipedia article headed Early Life and Education. Now, let me throw this out. I want to start here. King was a middle child between the oldest sister, Willie Christine King, and young brother, Alfred Daniel Williams King. King sang with his church choir at the 1939 Atlanta premiere of the movie Gone with the Wind. King liked singing and music. His mother was an accomplished organist and choir leader, and she took him to various churches to sing. He received attention for singing. I want to be more and more like Jesus. See, these are the type of songs that we sang. I want to be more and more like Jesus. And when a black person say they want to be more and more like Jesus, that means that they want to be more and more white and less black, so-called black. Y'all follow me here?
Yes. The balls in the center.
No, it's right here. It's right here. I accidentally fell in here.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. But anyway, somebody's having a bad hair day. But anyway, I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry. I just couldn't resist that one. But okay. So you know, we want to, so singing more and more like Jesus. Now, I know some people that are looking at this broadcast, this Google Hangout is going to say, you know, you just nitpicking, man. You know, you're just trying to tear down our great leaders. Well, more and more like Jesus, when a black person is singing that, it means that they want to be more and more white. Even if it's not in skin color, in their thinking, in their philosophy, in their way of life, in their privileges. Yeah, I want to be more and more like Jesus. King later became a member of the junior choir. Now, it's something that I read over here that's real, that kind of got me a little bit, but I just kind of blazed through it. King sang with his church choir at the 1939 Atlanta premiere of the movie Gone with the Wind. For now, as far as I know, Gone with the Wind ain't got nothing to do with our liberation. You see? So you got a church choir singing at the premiere of a movie called Gone with the Wind. Who's that? Audrey Hepburn, and who else was in that movie? I forget who. But my point is, here's the church now, skinning and grinning. Those old songs of Zion. They required of us myrrh. Y'all, I'm telling you, we are trying to be white so bad. It's literally killing us. We want to please white mommy and white daddy so bad. It really is killing us. It's been killing us ever since we've been here. So King said that his father regularly whipped him until he was 15. Well, that's good. A neighbor reported hearing the elder king tell A neighbor reportedly hearing the elder king telling his son he would make something of him, even if he had to beat him to death. Now, let's stop here. Let's stop here. We just can't read over that. Now, when you read about Martin Luther King's father, his father was a sharecropper, okay? This is a guy who basically lived through slavery, okay? Basically lived through slavery. And he said he's going to beat his son and make him something, even if it kill him. That sounds so black to me. That's the black mindset. Why? When he says when a black parent said, I want to make something of you, it means I want to make you white. In some capacity. It's not about color of the pigment of the skin, but I want to make you white in your thinking. I want to make you successful like a white person. Read Proverbs chapter 3, verse 31. See, a lot of child abuse from back in those days that went unreported, it was based on the fact that your parents was trying to make you white. This is why I say I was raised as a white supremacist. I was sure enough raised as a white supremacist. And so here is Martin Luther King's father going to make something out of him. Something what? Something American out of him. Something white American out of him. Even if it kills him. Even if it kills his son, I'm going to make you white. That's all that is. That's all that is. It had nothing to do with, I'm going to whoop you until you realize that you are Israelite. No, it wasn't like that. It was, I'm going to whoop you until you realize that white is right. That's your gold standard. And if you fail for that, you really deserve to die. If you can't be white, you deserve to die. So, and this happened until the boy was 15 years old. I bet you it happened longer than that. I bet you it happened way longer, more than when he was 15. He's probably in his 20s getting whoopings. King said that his father regularly whipped him. Okay, I read that. Such as King's senior's refusal to listen to traffic police after being referred to as boy, or stalking out of the store, being told by the shoe clerk that they would have to move to the rear of the store to be served. When King as a child, he befriended a white boy whose father owned a business near his family's home. When the boys were 6, they started school. King had to attend a school for African Americans, and the other boy went to one for whites. Public schools were among the facilities segregated by the state law. King lost his friend because the child's father no longer wanted the boy to get the boys to play together. King suffered from depression throughout much of his life. In the adolescent years, he initially felt resentment against whites due to the social humiliation. And I could see how he would feel this resentment, because you got a whole nation of people that look like you forcing themselves on white people, while at the same time, white people are treating you like garbage. This would cause some serious mental problems in a child. You know, we got to be white, but the white people don't like us. And so this is going to cause some rage. King suffered from depression. King blamed himself and jumped out of a second-story window, but survived. Wow. Let me read this over. King suffered from depression throughout much of his life. In his adolescent years, and yes, he would be suffering from depression. Your father's trying to whoop the whiteness into you. People hate you. And the only goal that you know to aspire to that is of worth note is being white. Yeah, that will bring on a lot of depression, y'all, on a child. It's like, man, you hate the people that you're trying to be like and excel. And your whole nation of people are pressing you to be that. That's their gold standard. So let's read what happened to King. King had to attend a school for African Americans, and the other boys went to one for whites. Now, you can tell that this was written way after Martin Luther King, and of course, because Wikipedia didn't exist, because it wouldn't say no African Americans, it would say Negroes or colored. Okay. King suffered from depression throughout much of his life. As an adolescent years, he initially felt resentment against whites due to the social humiliation that he, his family, and his neighbor often had to endure in the segregated South. But what they're leaving out, y'all, is a lot of his depression also came from the way that black folk were trying to be white and be a part of white society, accepted. No, now this article ain't gonna bring that out. They ain't gonna put no onus on black folk. Read the scripture, Proverbs 3:31.
Envy not thou oppressor.
Envy not thou oppressor,
and choose none of his ways.
and choose none of his ways. Why?
For the forward is abomination to the Lord.
For what? For the forward is what?
Is an abomination to the Lord.
The forward is an abomination to the Lord. What are the forward? The forward are those that they vaunt up themselves. The forward are those that they usurp privileges, power, and authority that don't even belong to them. The forward are those that put themselves in the place of the Most High. They are what? The forward are what?
Abomination.
An abomination. Now, white people don't know that they're abomination, but they do everything that I just said. They put themselves in the place of God. They say that they are God. They say that they are supposed to be even our God. Now, I do agree with that to some extent, because when we are not keeping the commandments of our God, yeah, they should be our default God. They're always going to end up as our default God when we don't obey our God. But the problem with these people is that they impose their godhood on people who are actually keep hungering and thirsting after righteousness. So it says here, it says, due to the racial humiliation that he, his family, and his neighbors often had to endure in the segregated South at age 12, shortly after, I skipped over something. Shortly after his maternal grandmother died, King blamed himself and jumped out of a second-story window. But wow. King was skeptical of many Christianity's claims. There you go, y'all. King was skeptical of many of Christianity's claims. At age 13, he denied the bodily resurrection of Jesus. At 13, y'all, whatever. During Sunday school. From this point, he stated, doubts began to spring forth unrelentingly. However, he later concluded that the Bible has many profound truths which one cannot escape, and decided to enter the seminary. So they're going to use what he thought as a 13-year-old against him. That's just crazy. That's just crazy. That's just really reaching, you know? In Sunday school, when he was 13, he shut up. Did he deny that God was a white man? Now that was something that he could have denied. King became the youngest assistant manager of a newspaper delivery station for the Atlanta Journal in 1942 when he was 13. So actually, at age 13, Michael Luther King was an advanced child. He wasn't your average 13-year-old.
Man, that's society.
Or 14 or 14-year-old. He was the guy that was on his, I mean, he knew his stuff.
I mean, a lot of those type of hardships, though, you know, especially down south.
He wasn't a spoiled brat. He knew how to do some things. So look at this. During his junior year, he won first prize in an oratorical contest sponsored by the Negro Elks Club in Dublin, Georgia. Returning home to Atlanta by bus, he and his teacher were ordered by the driver to stand so that white passengers could sit down. King initially refused, but complied after his teacher told him that he would be breaking the law if he did not submit. King said that during this indecent, he was the angriest I have ever been in my life. A precocious student, he skipped both the 9th and the 12th grade of high school. During King's junior year in high school, Morehouse College, a respected historical black college, announced that it would accept any high school junior who could pass its entrance exam. At the time, many students had abandoned further studies to enlist in World War II. Due to this, Morehouse was eager to fill its classrooms. At the age of 15, King passed the exam and entered Morehouse. The summer before his last year in Morehouse in 1974, the 18-year-old King chose to enter the ministry. He had concluded that the church offered the most assuring way to answer an inner urge to serve humanity. King's inner urge had begun developing, and he made peace with the Baptist church, as he believed he would be a rational minister with sermons that were a respectful force for ideas, social. In 1948, he graduated from Morehouse College with a BA degree in sociology and enrolled in Colzer's Theological Seminary in Chester, Pennsylvania, from which he graduated with a BA divinity degree in 1951. King's father fully supported his decision to continue his education. While attending Colzer, King was joined with Walter McCall, a former classmate at Morehouse. At Colzer's, King was elected president of the student body. The African. Now, everything that Martin Luther King is joining, now they're not bringing out, you know, the stuff. So far, I haven't read anything about his fraternity. He joined the Greek fraternities. So that's a conflict of interest. You're a Christian. That's a huge conflict of interest with your culture. You join a Greek fraternity, huge conflict. You're worshiping white Jesus, huge conflict of interest. you seek after the education that the white man provides for the purpose of being a white person, or let's, instead of saying a white person, let's say a upstanding American. It's the same thing, no matter how you say it. So it says, while attending Koser, King was joined by Walter McCall, former classmate at Morehouse. At Koser, King was elected president of the student body. The African-American student of Koser, for the most part, conducted their social activity on Edward Streets. King became fond of the street because a classmate had an aunt who prepared collard greens for them, which they both relished. Once reproved another student for keeping beer in his room, saying they had shared responsibilities as African Americans to bear the burdens of the Negro race. For a time, he was interested in Walter Ruschenbusch social gospel. Now, Walter Ruschenbusch, the social gospel, in his third year at Moulton. Now, I wonder what Walter Ruschenbusch is. Oh, go ahead, Jensen. Go ahead, Jensen. Let it out. Huh? What'd you say?
Jewish.
Okay, Walter Ruschenbusch was a Christian theologian and Baptist pastor who taught at the Rochester Theological Seminary. Ruschenbusch was a key figure in the social gospel and single tax movement that flourished in the United States during the early century. He was also the maternal grandfather of the influential philosopher Richard Rorty and the great-grandfather of Paul Rorty. I want to know what this social gospel is about. Though he went through, let's see if I can get a picture of him, because it sounds like a Caucasian brother. Walter Ruschenbusch. I'm not going to drip too far away from the Martin Luther King Wikipedia article, but I want to see. Who do we be idolizing?
Well, he's a guy, his father is from,
yeah, he's a white guy.
From
okay.
Berlin. And I know a lot of dudes there.
Berlin. So so he's into so he's Martin Luther Martin Luther King's father fell in love with the Germans. And that's how Martin Luther got his name. So now Martin Luther gets older and he falls in love with the gospel of Walter Ruschenbusch. Okay. Was a Christian theologian and Baptist pastor who taught. And okay. So, you know, it's like we get so brainwashed with this society, we just start going goo goo gaga over our oppressor. Proverbs 3:31 says, envy not the oppressor and choose none of his ways. I mean, we actually buckle down and like study. You know, we like Velcro on these people. It's really, 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 really sad. But I can see where the pathology comes from. Oh, I got somebody in the chat room. Okay, who is there? Who's there? Could somebody identify themselves or say hello? And we're just sitting here looking at this case study on the Sabbath. the Sabbat of Martin Luther King and the SCLC, because Martin Luther King is, you know, it's coming up. Okay. What's going on?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay. Is this thing frozen? Oh, okay. There we go. So,
All these lights look as bright.
huh?
All these lights look as bright.
Yeah, Easter.
You get used to it.
They're bright. You just used to them now, son.
That's how somebody can shoot me.
All these lights are like 1,500 watts. I mean, 1,500 lumens. So these are the brightest lights we've ever had in here. So,
Look like that. I have light.
so let's go back to the Wikipedia article. Now that we have discovered who Walter Rauschenbusch is, and I just want to, early years, death and legacy. I'm going to click on this. What's this Brotherhood of the Kingdom? Let's see. Brotherhood of the Kingdom. And this is about Walter Rauschenbusch. In 1892, Rauschenbusch and some friends formed a group called the Brotherhood of the Kingdom. The group's character declared that the Spirit of God is moving men in our generation towards a better understanding of the idea of the kingdom of God on earth, and that their intention was to reestablish the idea in the thought of the church and to assist in the practical realization to the world. In a pamphlet, Rauschenbusch wrote, "Because the kingdom of God has been dropped as the primary and comprehensive arm of Christianity, and personal salvation has been substitute for it. Therefore, men seek to save their own souls and are selflessly indifferent to the evangelization of the world." Okay, I'm going to read about his now this is one guy that Martin Luther King really looked up to. Walter Rauschenbusch died on July 5th, 1918, at the age of 56. Rauschenbusch worked, influenced, among others, Martin Luther King, Desmond Tutu, and his grandson, Richard Rorty. Even in the 21st century, Rauschenbusch name is used by certain social justice ministers in tribute to his life and work, including such as the Rauschenbusch Metro Ministries of New York and the Rauschenbusch Center of Spirit and Action in Seattle. The North American Baptist Convention archives in Scenic Falls, South Dakota, and the American Baptist Historical Society in Atlanta both maintain extensive Rauschenbusch collection. I want to know what was he teaching? That's what I'm trying to get to. They given a lot of non sequiturs here. Let me skip down to the part where it says view of Christianity. I'm trying to get the guts of what did this guy teach? Come on, watch this thing. When white people start talking about a social gospel, watch out. Rauschenbusch's view of Christianity was that its purpose was to spread the kingdom of God, not through fire and brimstone style of preaching, but by the Christ-like lives led by its members. Rauschenbusch did not understand Jesus' death as an act of substitutionary atonement. Rather, he came to believe that Jesus died to substitute love for selfishness as the basis of human society. Rauschenbusch wrote that Christianity is in the nature revolutionary. and tried to remind society of that. He taught that the kingdom of God is not a matter of getting individuals into heaven, but of transforming the life on earth into the harmony of heaven. See, all this rhetoric here is just non-specific. It don't mention Israel. It's always talking about Christianity. Christianity is an elusive, amorphous, ethereal idea that just could morph into anything. It could morph into a red dragon with sharp teeth or a nice little cream puff. Sweet little cream puff. So all this social justice stuff without biblical foundation, yeah. Even when I was a Christian, that was always suspect to me. Now, this is very well a guy who probably had slaves or something, and he was teaching all this stuff. Oh yeah. This don't apply to black people. It's just, this is really the gospel to white people. So let's go back to that Martin Luther King article. Let me see here. Okay, so we got the Rauschenbusch guy down. His social gospel. I didn't really get deep into that. If a white person is pushing a social gospel, they're pushing a gospel where everybody is God's chosen people. Chinese, Japanese, mass killers, suicide bombers, rapists. Whenever you see white people pushing a social gospel, they're going to have the devil. They're going to have every demon in hell as a part of that gospel. That's just what they're going to do. Mass murders, anybody, hunchbacks, midgets, they're going to throw in everybody. Cows, dogs, they're going to pervert up everything. It's going to get smutted up. So, in idea and in practice. So it says, in his third year at Morehouse, King became romantically involved with his white daughter of an immigrant German woman who worked as a cook in the cafeteria. Nobody knows about this. German. Why do the Germans keep coming up? Why do Germans keep coming up in Martin Luther King's life? Germans. This Rauschenbusch guy, now he's got a German girl, and his father went to Germany, and what is this? I thought everything was segregated. So let's see. Melchizedek, come here. What's the problem?
Why is it so hot?
Oh, it's not.
So it says, so let's see what happened to this white woman. And planned to marry her, but friends advised against it. So there you go. Martin Luther King. He would have married a white woman. The only reason why he couldn't marry her is because her friends and her society stopped it. Now, he had a white girlfriend way back then. The daughter had been involved with a professor prior to her relationship with King. King planned to marry her. But friends advised against it, saying that such an interracial marriage would provoke animosity from both blacks and whites, potentially damaging his chances of ever pastoring a church in the South. King tearfully told a friend that he could not endure his mother's pain over the marriage and broke the relationship off 6 months later. He continued to have lingering feelings towards the women he felt he left. It should say woman he left. One friend was quoted as saying he never recovered. Boy, that black men just be like, when it comes to a white woman, we just get psychologically destroyed if we can't get a white woman. Now, I know, I get it. This is a Wikipedia article, but there's a lot of truth to this. This got the ring of truth to it. Let freedom ring. He never recovered. King marries Coretta Scott King on June 18, 1953, on the lawn of his parents' house at her hometown in, so she was the runner-up. Wow, it's amazing, y'all. So Martin Luther King would have been in the category of all these black guys now who are married to white women. Wow. You know, I'm gonna say, I don't know what black men go through with white women, but I've never been that attracted to no white woman. Never. And I've had plenty white women like me. I've had plenty white women attracted to me. I just never felt that way about white women. I've seen beautiful women, attractive white women, but I've never been smitten like that. It's like, I mean, black men like zombies over a black woman, a white woman. It's like we will jump off a cliff for a white woman. I don't get that. Don't put it in sideways, baby, please. Let's straighten that one out. Uh-oh. Straighten it out. Front to back, front to back, front to back. Yeah, there you go. There you go. That a girl. You're supposed to bring the coals up to the front before you do that. Why don't you take that out?
Put it in. Yes.
Just rake them to the front. There you go. So, and it's so sad. It's so sad. So King married Coretta Scott King in 1953. They became the parents of 4 children: Yolanda King, Martin Luther King, Dexter King, and Bernice King. All of them, none of them can stand each other. During the marriage, King limited Coretta's role in the civil rights movement, expecting her to be the housewife and mother. So let's see here.
Wow.
And look the way he turned too. Now that thing picked up on the thing, and all the green lights came on. Wow. Wow. Now he can't talk that loud, but all the green lights shot up. Yeah. I got all green lights, boy. Don't, no, come on, son. Shh. We don't have to let the world know. But anyway. Shh. Let's not be silly. Yeah.
Yeah, who was that?
So it says, in April 1963, the SCLC, okay, began a campaign against racial segregation and economic injustice. That was a fail right there. No, leave segregation alone, just racial injustice. Why it's got to be so, yeah. Why are we fighting to sit on the toilet with white people? Why are we fighting? Why are we fighting? You ain't got no rights as a human being, basically, but you're fighting to sit on a toilet that white people sit on? I mean, we got our priorities all jacked up. I could care less about sitting on a toilet with some white people or sitting at a lunch counter with them. I could care less. And so whatever hand was behind the civil rights movement knew that it was going to destroy all of our business. It was going to kill off the spirit of entrepreneurship among our people. And they used Martin Luther King, the SCLC, as the spearhead of that, the tip of the spear in destroying us. That's exactly what it did. We wanted to have white privilege, to be able to have a white girlfriend. That's what that segregation was really about. Being able to be intimate with our enemies. The only thing that's going to come from that, from the Most High, is destruction. He said that we're not supposed to be having marriages with these people. We don't supposed to be having sex with these people. We are the holy seed. Our women have holy wombs compared to all other women on earth. And the men have holy sperm. So we don't supposed to be mating with them. They wasn't even made to mate with us. That's what we want. That's what the segregation was all about, y'all. Come on, let's keep it real. So there was some other people that I wanted to look into. I'm going to look up this. I want to look up something. Maybe I can find it, put my finger on it, because I don't see it in this article right now. A couple of places where it actually, I should have read it through it by now. Mentors of Martin Luther King. Now, if you look up the mentors of Martin Luther King, you're going to be able to see the reason. If you look at the pathology of the mentors who mentored Martin Luther King, you're going to be able to see why we are being destroyed. It says letters, but I want mentors. Mentors. Excuse me. I'll be back, y'all.
Mom, you want it?
Let's stop that. It's cracking that. Come on, baby. But yeah, that's what they're talking about when you take a look at that article.
You get a cup.
So, your choice.
You got scriptures?
Shh. Okay. So let's see. I'm going to see Martin Luther King's mentors. Some of the names. And now I'm not going to be able to do a thorough case study on Martin Luther King, and maybe I'll do a part 2 to this. But as we prepare to celebrate Martin Luther King Jr.'s national holiday, leaders across America might consider an often overlooked leadership and life lesson that this famous protege taught us. Mentors help shape the accomplishment of their proteges, and sometimes those proteges change the world. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you going to do for others? These are the words of Martin Luther King Jr. as we celebrate his life and legacy on Martin Luther King Jr.'s Day. Considering mentoring some young, okay, I want to get to, okay. Who were the mentors? That's what I want to know. Now I'm going to tell you all, I'm just going to wager this. All the mentors of Martin Luther King had to be guys who want to be Americans. They knew nothing about being Israelites. And even if it would have been brought to them, they would have rejected it whole cloth. They would have rejected it. Because being an American is far more attractive. So one of the mentors was Benjamin Mays, who was the president of Morehouse College in Atlanta. When he met Martin Luther King Jr. in 1944, Martin Luther King was admitted to the college at age 15. Mays became so close to Martin Luther King that later in life, he referred to King as his son and would go on to deliver the eulogy at King's funeral. Being the son of slaves gave Mays the drive to succeed and see, all the slaves wanted to succeed as what? Americans. That's where our success gene comes from. It comes from wanting to be like white mommy and white daddy. It really do come from that. I really want you to get this. You hear me, Melchizedek? But Rahama? Eve? Bezalel? You see? We want to be successful as white people in black skin. That's what we want. That's what the I Have a Dream is all about. It's being successful as a black person in white skin, in a white brain, so to speak. That's what I have a dream that one day, that's what it's about. That all God's children will be white. That's really what it's about, y'all. That's why back in those days, our people were so hard on education, and still are today. Okay, another one of King's mentors was Howard Thurman, a dean of chapel at Harvard University and Boston University. For more than 2 decades, wrote numerous books. In the 1944, helped found the multicultural church, a multicultural church. Whenever you see a black person and they're spearheading something for multiculturalism, that's about being white. That's all it is. Yeah, let's get everybody together, you know. No, it's like, let's get everybody together so all of us can be together as white people with the aspiration of white supremacy. That's what it's really about. We want to be on even footing. We want the success that they have. Now, I bet you if you do go through a Wikipedia article on each one of these guys, you're going to see where we all over the place with our culture. We want to be German. We want to be Greek. We in Greek fraternities. We worship white Jesus. We Romans. It's all over the place. We into Hindu stuff. Martin Luther King was all into, y'all, all over the place. Y'all, we supposed to be at the bottom, y'all. With this kind of stuff that's going on, no matter how rich we are or poor we are, we're going to be at the bottom. The Most High is never going to let us get above our enemy trying to be our enemy. Okay, Thurman had become a scholar and religion leader who traveled. I wonder, did he ever teach his congregation that God is not white? And that white guy is really Caesar Borgia. I wonder, did he teach him that? Look at this, y'all. In 1930s, Thurman had become a scholar and religious leader who traveled the world to explore religion. And in 1935, he met Gandhi. He learned about the philosophy and practice of nonviolence. See, we always sitting at the feet of some other nation. A Hindu? Come on, y'all. And this guy was a mentor of Martin Luther King. This is why Martin Luther King looked up to Gandhi, thanks to Howard Thurman. See, I'm telling you, y'all, we just whoring after every culture we could find. Didn't the Bible say in Deuteronomy chapter, where is that at? Deuteronomy, go ahead, turn there, Chester. Deuteronomy 28, hurry up, quick, turn there before I turn there. Quick, both hands. Deuteronomy 28. Deuteronomy 28, and I think verse 8. It says, and no man shall buy you. No man shall buy you. No man shall save you. We run into Gandhi. We run into this. We run into Greek fraternities. We run into the Masons. Come on. None of that stuff has saved us. We want to be white so bad. None of that stuff is saving us. We ran to white Jesus. We ran to Greek fraternities. We ran to Hinduism. We ran to socialism. We ran to, y'all, come on. So that's Thurman. Thurman wrote 21 books and hundreds of sermons and articles about the connection between spiritual renewal and social change. See, our focus isn't social change. Now, the people at the bottom talking about social change for everybody. Forget about everybody else. But we want them white women, so we got to have social change. That's the real reason why we want social change, so we can get some white women. Lord have mercy. And I'm so happy that God is killing off these people. Here's another guy. And I wonder how many of these guys were homosexuals. Another important mentor to King was Bernard Rustin. Like Benjamin Mays and Howard Thurman, Rustin exposed King to the philosophy of nonviolence and the practice of nonviolent resistance, which he had observed while working with Gandhi. Here's another black guy working with Gandhi. These guys were set up in Martin Luther King's life to make him the type of man that he was. India, working with Gandhi. Let me tell you, you're not going to have no real movement and there's no violence. Ask white folks. Everything they do is violent. They wouldn't even feel comfortable not doing nothing without violence. But that's what they teach us, though. So Rustin recognized Martin Luther King Jr. leadership and helped the civil rights leader organize the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, which is the SCLC, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Rustin was a leading strategist of the civil rights movement from 1955 to 1968, and he was the chief organizer of the 1963 March on Washington with jobs and freedom. What about freedom first? But Black people don't really want freedom. They want to stay closely fettered to their captors. But they just want to have benefits while they're fettered. That's what we call freedom. Without the 1963 March, the world may have never witnessed the I Have a Dream speech, which was delivered by Dr. King on August 8th. In addition to his pivotal work to organize the SCLC, Rustin also influenced young activists to organize, like the Congress on Racial Equality, or CORE, and the Student Nonviolent Coordination Committee, the SNCC. These organizations led by young people, SNCC, I think that's SNCC, by young people laid the foundation for the voting rights movement in Selma, Alabama, while much of the new movie Selma focuses on the arrival of Dr. King in Selma. Students were organizing for nearly 3 years before his arrival. Rustin rarely served as a public spokesperson for the civil rights movement, but chose instead to be an influential advisor to civil rights leaders. In the 1970s, he became a public advocate on behalf of gay and lesbian causes. See, y'all, we fighting for gays and lesbians. We fighting for white people, and they standing on top of our neck. We're gloating. We're paying homage to the Hindus through Gandhi and the nonviolent philosophy. We worshiping the Germans. We part of Greek fraternities. We part of the Masons. Oh my God, y'all, we supposed to be destroyed. We really supposed to be destroyed. When you're fighting for something, you have to be focused. You can't be all over the daggone place. You in India, you in Germany, you in Greece, you in Rome, worshiping white Jesus. You all over the place. Hey, what's wrong? Okay, we'll let it out. Dr. King's life in the consciousness is one of the first examples, but we have about how a leader emotional intelligence contributes to the fabric of the people in America. Long before the concept of emotional intelligence was given birth, the young 15-year-old Martin Luther King Jr. had insight to be mentored by Benjamin Mays and the following, and to follow his suggestion about seeking the Howard Thurman in Boston College. Okay, let me. Now, each one of these mentors of Martin Luther King, if you go to a Wikipedia article and read about their life and their biography, and then find out about their fathers and stuff, see, some of these guys were gay. They were homosexuals, sodomites. And these are the guys that mentored who? Mr. King. Y'all, let me tell you something, y'all. I noticed in war, the enemies never be trying to like look over into their camp to see, okay, how can we be more like them? They never do that. That is so stupid. Oh, do they have some women in their army that we can have sex with? You know, oh, there's a fine one over there. Okay, let's go out there with the white flag. But that's what black people do. That's what black people do. But anyway, I just wanted to give y'all something to really look at. I want to give y'all something to really look at and take in consideration on case studies. You know, I want y'all to look at case studies, you know, and make a chain of historical characters to historical events and institutions that give you a more full-orbed idea of what's going on. We study in socialism. We study in white. We worship in white Jesus. We worshiping and by paying homage to Martin Luther, the reformer, who hates black people. We study in socialism. I mean, Martin Luther King was all over the place in his head. And I think Martin Luther King was steered this way. And I bet you there's some white people behind all these mentors of Martin Luther King. I bet you. I bet you it was white people behind all these mentors that Martin Luther King had. They were hand-selected by our enemies to form the SCLC, SNCC, and everything else that was out there. We getting played, y'all. But anyway, that's all I want to talk about right now. And let me say this. I did this with Martin Luther King, but you can do this with any of our leaders. Thurgood Marshall, any of these guys, you can. Whether they entertainers, politicians, you could. We ain't gonna never get nowhere. No, and none of these people are focused on our culture as Israelites. None of them. You're never gonna hear Israelite come up in none of their biographies. And it's not that they didn't know nothing about it, y'all. Don't be naive in thinking that they don't know it. They just like, hey, it's just not expedient. We don't feel it's expedient, or we're just gonna fight for white. We're gonna fight to be white, think white, live white, and have the goals of white, and have the apple pie that white people have. We want a slice of the apple pie that white people have made. And the filling of this apple pie is not filled with apples.
What is it?
Let's don't go that far. Let's don't go that far. Let's don't go that far. He woke up on that.
And another reason.
He woke up on that one. But anyway, we're going to conclude this hangout. May the Most High add a blessing to what we've studied. And the reason why I'm doing this case study, I want to tell you what the whole reason why I'm doing this case study is so people know and understand that all of our leaders need to be re-examined. I don't care if it's Marcus Garvey, Martin Luther King, Elijah Muhammad, Malcolm X, Farrakhan, whoever, it don't matter. Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, they all need to be looked at, because we're not getting closer to anything that the Most High talked about. And that is getting the kingdom and repenting of our sin. I never heard Martin Luther King talk about us repenting as black people who are really Israelites. I never even heard him say we need to repent of anything. But anyway, that's the conclusion of this Google Hangout. And thank you for joining us. And I'm signing out. Bye-bye.